Good morning. Good morning. It is Wednesday, or good evening. Good evening. So today I thought we'd revisit something we've visited before, but we'll do it a little differently. So Matthew, and I have $22 each month.
That's like the price of a streaming service or something.
Yeah, I mean, not bad. How about you just give me $22 each month?
Oh, well, I would wonder why. I'd be like, oh, so what am I getting?
Well, what it is there was some research done, and the results were sort of but some people really wanted this to move forward because they thought it might help some people for some time do something. And so it's a little pricey. But the people who created the thing, they're only charging half price now. So it's only going to be $28,000 a year versus $56,000 a year for somebody to get it. Okay. So if we all kick in 22, all of us who are over 65 anyway, kick in or disabled, kick in $22 a year on our Medicare B payments, $22, then we'd be able to have it available for people. What do you think?
I'd still want to know more.
Oh,
tell me more. Tell me more.
Okay. Well, so the thing is that Aduhelm is back in the news. So, there's a concern. I mean, we were concerned for lots of reasons about Aduhelm. I mean, the data for us is just not strong enough to make recommendation for treatment. It's still in research. I mean, sorry, but there's too many bits and pieces that don't make good clinical sense to me for me to want to go, yeah, let's just give it to anybody who wants it. Anybody who's concerned and is fairly early in the disease and meets the criteria, sure, go for it. It's $28,000 a year. It seems to me to be a reasonable, even at 28, because they halved it. Now, Biogen decided to half the price because they were getting such pushback at $56,000 a year. Now, if I remember correctly, now I've got to double check myself, but that does not include the testing that has to go with it. Now, maybe it does, but I don't think so. I think that's just the drug itself, the Aduhelm, because I think you have to have scanning, you have to have things happening to make sure that you're not bleeding out in your brain and that other things are not happening. And it's pretty intense. You have to go into a treatment. And you have to, yeah. So anyway, I think that 28,000 would simply be for the treatment itself, not for the testing that goes along with it stuff. So in a report that came out, let's see, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. Sarah Becerra, Becerra, one of the guys who's in charge of things. Okay, so the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services should rethink the hefty Medicare B premium hike on proposal. That's a proposal that has based in part on the estimated cost of Aduhelm that the U.S. Health Secretary, Xavier Becerra, said, wait a minute. So you're going to add $22 to the Part B premium for everybody so that it will cover Aduhelm, among other things, but mostly Aduhelm. So, that's what we're thinking. We should add $22 to the one and make it $170 a month rather than what it was before, which was around $150 a month. So what do you think, Matthew?
Well, Teepa, my first thought is, $22. I mean, especially right now, it can buy some things. It can do more for folks in some ways if they're able to keep that and use that for those, than necessarily putting towards something that I feel like we're still trying to figure out. Is this truly what we're looking for? Is this truly doing the things that we would like it to do? Is this really making a big impact? And so that, for me, that's like the first thing that pops out is like, I'm not sure if that's worth that extent.
Right. So, I mean, that's a lot of money for everybody to everybody who gets Part B Medicare is kicking in $22 more. I mean, when we argue about a penny on gas tax, I mean, we will argue and people will go to war over on, war, but I mean, really fight about things like a sales tax or another 2 pennies on cigarettes or whatever it is, whatever that is to treat, to make it be something for other people. And to think that this is like $22 a month, when, there are a lot of scientists who are really like, this is still in research phase, guys. This should have more research done before it becomes a treatment that people just have. And if people want to sign up for that clinical program, well, then Biogen and those folks need to work that out. And CMS can certainly contribute to that research, but asking everybody to pay for that just seems like, wow, that's a lot of money going into that. When there are other places where for people living with dementia, I would rather see them spend $22 of everybody's money in another way. That makes more sense in the short term, in the long term, that has more evidence that it makes a difference in people's lives than something that can cause little strokes in the brain does, as a matter of fact, in many cases, doesn't really change functional outcomes for people in many, many, many cases, and changes a score on a cognitive test by maybe 1 point for a while. And it can't change the disease and make it stop. It doesn't stop the disease. It maybe slows it, maybe, but it has some potential side effects. So it just seems like, wow, we're willing to kick that kind of money into that. Somebody saying, whoa, pause. But somebody was willing to propose that. It got some traction, at least, because you have the Secretary of Health and Human, had to say, whoa, wait a minute, what? So I don't know. It just seems funny to me. So it's just one of those moments where you go, Now, this morning, we do have a program that's coming out on our Courageous Conversation from Dr. Kanel Bahat, who is talking about, the idea of doing scanning and doing this imaging to better appreciate what kind of dementia, do we have a dementia? What's it look like? What's it doing? Comparing the scanning to what people are like in real life and moving that. The goal is to move that from research to practice. But there's a clear appreciation that we got a ways to go before we can do that, because we know there aren't always great 100% matchups. So figuring out what the matchups are for different dementias. And just going to talk some about that, and then we continue the conversation next week. But we're sort of more of a let's pause a little bit, because this isn't magic. I mean, this isn't like this is going to cure things. We've got to figure out how we manage things and reduce risk on things before we cure things, I think. And, we're just more believers in, okay, well, how are people doing right now? What can we do for the people right now who are living with the disease? There are people who are supporting them, people who are dealing with changes. How do we help those people, some at least, rather than charging everybody $22 so that some people can go get something that may or may not really do a lot positive? And still, there's a lot of questions about how many times it might actually cause some problems for people, because a lot of people did drop out of the studies. I mean, that's sort of an important thing to keep in mind, maybe. I don't know. So, Matthew, that's me. What are you thinking, or what are people out there saying?
Definitely some agreement on that piece of, boy, a lot of folks are living on a fixed income, and the idea of taking more money away from them a month to pay for something that is a maybe, that's just tough. And so that's not, again, looking at, big picture and also, detail, the more the detail, it's just not very helpful overall for everybody in this situation.
Well, so what if we did a thing where we took that $22 and you could do an exercise program like Total Health Works online. You could buy more fruits and vegetables and things that were better for you at the grocery store. and that would be covered under Medicare, that you would have a social setup so that you would interact and get support on a weekly basis for $22 a month, that you would have somebody who would be working with you on your sleep and on your stress. Or, we come up with some game plan that, like, here's the $22. How would you like to use this $22 that we're going to put into this? But here you get some choices on how you want to use it. And we'll set up some programs that have some evidence. Oh, I know the one, using music or pet therapy or what. But, like, we have some evidence that these other things are at least as effective and have fewer side effects than what we're talking about when it comes to health promotion and wellness and living life well after a diagnosis. Just seems to me, and we have peer support. I mean, we have things out there that we're not promoting, except here's another drug, if you will, that's going to get this beautiful write-off, that it just feels unfair for things that aren't shiny and bright and new and glossy. And I think we have some evidence that people need more support and they need more awareness and knowledge. And for $22 a person, you can do a much better job at improving and optimizing brains and reducing risks for people and supporting people where they are than devoting that money for something like that. I don't know. It just, it's troubling to me that we're going down this road. So I'm glad they put a pause on it and said, wait a minute. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that at least somebody's going, let me think on this, which I think is the right thing to do. The thing is not necessarily to say no, but to say, okay, so let's think about this and how else could we choose to spend that money? So I could, just like they get to, when I do my taxes, I can say I want to put money into, I don't know, whatever it was at one point, it was political action or whatever. Seems like you could do that, at some point. So I get to put my money here, 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 or here. Where would I like my $22 to go? If you're going to do it, where is it going? Or you get to keep it. A lot of people would choose to keep it, but some people might choose to make a contribution. But I'd like to know where, because I'll be making one if they do that. Where would I make it? What would I want to contribute to? Because I think it's still experimental, frankly. So I'd rather spend my money on something else that has, to me, better impact. So, all right, Matthew. So I'm done. I'm done ranting a bit. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And this kind of goes back, Teepa, to what we talked about not too long ago, that piece of that place in Nevada, Missouri that was closing down. This idea of our system is set up more to ding and take away from places when things aren't happening. And it's obvious that they're struggling and there's a lot of things happening. And so again, thinking about options, could taking that money and helping to support more programs out there that are doing good and are making an impact or a benefit, that idea, wow, it just,
they do cover silver sneakers frequently, but if silver sneakers isn't your thing, it's like sort of like, okay, well, there's silver sneakers. And it's like, well, let's cover some other things too. How about?
Yeah.
It's just one of those things you go, really, guys? Really? So, all right, everybody. Well, you hear what I'm thinking, but, please, if you have some other thoughts, you have a different perspective, please let us know. It's not that I'm saying absolutely not on this thing. It's just like, I still think it's research. So I would like people to label it for what it is and not give it carte blanche and expect me to pay for it. So, all right, everybody. Till tomorrow, take care with care, and we'll see you then.
Bye, everybody.